everybody, and welcome to another Unreal Engine tutorial. Today we're going to begin focusing on our NPCs, non-playable characters that aren't enemies. This will include merchants, people that we can buy and sell things off, and also NPCs that we can speak to through a dialogue tree, and I'll be tackling both of them in the next few episodes. We'll start simple. Let's come over to Blueprints. Let's right click, create a new folder, and we're going to call this NPCs, assuming that we're going to have plenty of NPCs. Next up, we're going to go over to Core, not NPCs, into Core. We're going to right click on base character and create a child blueprint. We'll call this NPC base. The reason I want to create that is because we do have some stuff inside of our base character that we will likely use. For starters, we're definitely going to be using that name. And if you wanted to do a Skyrim approach where you could attack an NPC and they would turn into an enemy, then health would be important. Now we're going to click the drop down over here on Blueprints, and we're going to drag NPC base to the NPCs folder. And we want to move here, not copy, move. So your NPC base should be inside your NPCs folder as a child blueprint class. Now let's open that up. Drag that to the top. So to give this NPC some life, we need to fill out our mesh here. So we'll click the drop down and see what we've got. Down here we have tutorial TPP, which is a skeleton. And we'll drag that down to about -100. And we'll rotate -90. For our animation class, the only one we have at the moment is TPP Anim Blueprint, and that puts him into an aiming pose. We'll come back here and add some other animations later on. Unlike the way I normally do things in tutorials, I want to show you how to do this first and then explain why we're doing it that way, because this is one of the complexities with dealing with NPCs. Come back over to the test map and right click inside the NPCs folder. We want a new blueprint class. We want it to be an actor, and we're going to call this NPC_interaction. Open that up. We're going to add a component. It's going to be a box collision. Over to the box extent, let's go 50, 50, and 100 on X, Y, and Z respectively. So it looks something like that. Over to the event graph, we're going to right click, add event on component begin overlap, and right click, add event on component end overlap. As we've done many, many times before, we want to check that the overlapping component is our hero. So let's come back up here and create a reference for that. Get player character, cast to B_hero, right click, promote to variable, reference hero. We don't need tick or begin overlap at the moment. This is going to look very similar to stuff we've done before. We're going to get 2 branches, one for each overlap. And we're going to drag out of other actor 2 equal signs. And we're going to check to see if the overlapped actor is our reference hero. Branch into there. So there we are, the old familiar script that we've used several times before. Now coming out of this, for now we're going to get our print string. And our first print string is going to say hello, and our second print string is going to say goodbye. We'll get rid of these print strings a bit later. In fact, before those print strings, let's drag this over and do something else we've also done. Get player controller. Drag out of that, type in enable input, hold control, drag that target down because we want to enable input to this blueprint, and the player controller reference is our player controller. So we'll intersect that there. Then grab that player controller, drag out of there, disable input, and once again, hold control, drag target down to player controller, so that the player controller is selected on enable and disable input, plugged into the player controller. You've seen all of this before. And then we'll go one step further and get action reload. And with action reload, let's get a print string and say interaction. If we come over to NPC base, you can see here that I've implemented the same thing with a direct component. So this isn't a separate blueprint. This is a component attached to the NPC base. So over in the event graph, I've replicated that exact script. So this isn't using our blueprint. You don't have to do this. I just want to show you why we're not doing it this way. They're identical, besides the fact that parent begin play is here before we get our casting, but our casting is working. So if I was to drag NPC base here, hit play, and walk in front of him, hello works, goodbye works, so the interaction box as a component is working. If I was to press E once I'm in that box, that's not working. That's because enabling and disabling input directly onto another character doesn't work. So far, the only interaction we've had is our enemies with interfaces, but we can't use button prompts inside of this character because it's looking for its own player controller. So it's ignoring our player controller. So because of this, we can't use this interaction, and I'll F2 that and call that interaction component. So what we need to do is click Add Component, type in Child Actor, just like our weapons. And with the Child Actor class, let's hit the drop down and type in NPC, and we'll get Interaction. So now the interaction box is its own blueprint, not just a component attached to the character, which means that we can enable and disable input. So if I was to hit play, walk up, I'm going to get 2 hellos and 2 goodbyes now, but I'm only going to get 1 interaction as I press my action button, being E. So that's why this gets a little bit complicated, because we can't talk to another character the same way that we talk to a standard actor. So that means that we don't need this. The only thing we need inside of our NPC base at the moment is our begin play. We don't need this interaction component. So all you need to do is add your NPC interaction as a child actor, as I've shown, and we'll rename that to interaction. Now, getting back to this blueprint is important because we want to put the rest of our script here. We don't want to put all our reliance on this. So we'll right click and custom event, type in, for instance, dialogue. And this isn't necessarily where we'll put our dialogue at the moment, but just as an example, let's go back over to interaction, NPC interaction actor. Let's cut that interaction print string, come and paste it over here. And then when we press action reload, we'll get parent actor, because remember that this is a child actor attached to a parent, somewhat similar to how we've been creating child and parent classes. So we'll get parent actor, which is just going to get the next actor up the list. We'll drag out of that, cast to NPC base. And then so long as we've compiled and saved our NPC base, this event dialog will come up when we drag out of NPC base and type in dialog. It's actually going to call itself a function, but it's pretty much just calling the event. We'll compile and save that over to the test map, walk up to our NPC and stand in front of him, and we have our interaction. So that's how we have to get back to our NPC. It doesn't sound ideal, but because it's code, it's happening extremely fast, so we're not noticing that it's going back and forth between the two. But that's how we get around not being able to enable and disable our player controller inside of another character. So we're going to leave it there for now. And in the next episode, we're going to give this NPC a role of some sort, being either a merchant or to give us some dialogue. So I'll see you in that next episode.